3 News Now Web Extra.
The Texas SB 8 does ban abortion as early as 6 weeks in pregnancy, which is one of the most restrictive bans in the country. Basically, it delegates the enforcement of this law to private individuals under this bounty system that financially incentivizes these civil lawsuits against anyone who's suspected of violating this law. And they did that in order to evade the longstanding principle that states can't nullify federal constitutional rights. So as we wait for a decision, the intent of the law has already been realized in Texas, where thousands of Texans are currently being denied care to which they're constitutionally entitled to receive.
And when you say bounty system, what does that really mean? Because that word is being used a lot, and I'm sort of curious. We think of bounty hunters. So would it be individual private citizens suing other individual private citizens, or would there be actual organized, groups or nonprofits or special interest groups suing private citizens? What do you think that would look like if that were to happen?
So this is why it's so unprecedented, is that it puts enforcement into any private citizen rather than the executive branch. And the reason they did that was to delay court action to stop people from exercising their constitutional rights. So it empowers any private citizen and gives them a financial incentive to bring these civil lawsuits.
Has that been done before? Is there any precedent for that? Not whether it's abortion or some other kind of case. Is there any kind of precedent?
No, no.
I know that there are concerns, or there's some discussion that Nebraska might be, some lawmakers in Nebraska might be interested in passing a similar kind of law, or that maybe other states would follow Texas's lead. Is that something that the ACLU of Nebraska is concerned with?
Yes, we know that Governor Ricketts has said that he's pleased with this extreme ban and expects that it will inspire Nebraska leaders to entertain similar legislation. So now is the most critical time in recent history for Nebraskans to let their state senators know that we don't want this to happen here in Nebraska.
I think a lot of people get lost in, and myself included, the arguments around the morality of abortion, and we may or may not realize what the original legal grounding was in Roe versus Wade, or why that law was originally, why abortion rights were upheld by the Supreme Court. Would you be able to give us a little bit of a background on, I know it was based maybe in the Fourth Amendment, but could you perhaps give us a little background on the constitutional grounding for abortion? Because I know people have different views about whether or not, it's legal or should be legal or should be constitutional.
The right to abortion is really based on that fundamental principle of bodily autonomy and personal decision-making. And it's really in this zone of privacy where people need to be able to make those decisions for themselves. And the precedent makes clear that that decision on whether to keep or end a pregnancy is a deeply personal decision. And that's why there's 50 years plus of Supreme Court precedent that's made clear that decision belongs to the patient and their doctors and their families, and not elected officials.
And, just kind of talking about the basics here, for people who are opposed to abortion or concerned about it for moral reasons, if abortion is not accessible, if it's made illegal, essentially, does that mean that abortion stops, that it doesn't happen? Or does that mean abortions continue for some people and not for others? What does that look like if abortion rights are then restricted?
Right. laws on the books in Nebraska and laws like this one in Texas, time and time again show the same thing, that these laws have the greatest negative impact on low-income people, people who live in rural areas, and people of color, and that has and continues to be the case.
Is there anything else that you wanted to say about the ACLU of Nebraska and your position, or your position on the Texas law and your concerns about the oral arguments that are before the Supreme Court today?
I think I would just reiterate that more than any moment in recent history, it's very critical that Nebraskans urge their state senators to stop these bans and start respecting that Nebraskans have a constitutional right to make their own choices about abortion care. It's about the fact that it's empowering private citizens to sue. It also has these unprecedented attorney's fees that really discourage those who would be defendants under the suit from being able to access representation. And there's a plethora of things that really make it unique, but that private enforcement mechanism is really what makes it especially troublesome.